Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am your host, Vortex from MobileMusicPro.com, your home for mobile music production. And if you are new to the channel, what we do here is release weekly videos teaching people how to produce music. Our goal here is to get as many people producing music as possible, and the easiest, most accessible way to begin making music is on an iOS device. So if you do want to help us out on our mission, make sure to smash those likes, subscribe, and share out the show. Now today's video is yet another entry in our new ongoing series where we're diving deep into the fundamentals of music production by showing you how to use the plugins inside Cubasis 3. And the fourth video in that new series will be today's video covering the Noise Gate plugin. Now what a Noise Gate plugin actually does is simply allow you to remove unwanted noise by removing any sound below a certain desired threshold level. This really can be a great and useful tool to use on a variety of different instruments. For example, on drums, it can be used to remove the noise and hiss in between the drum hits. Or for vocals and background vocals to remove any additional lip smacks or any other unwanted noise that you hear in between your vocals in recording. And it can even be used to remove that hum or hiss of your guitar amp that happens in between the guitar player playing. Now, of course, you don't have to apply a noise gate on every single track, and if you are just working with samples, then you may not need to use one at all. But then again, if you are working with vocalists or any type of live instruments in your studio, the Noise Gate plugin can become an extremely handy tool. Alright, now with that intro aside, let's get right into showing you how to use the Noise Gate plugin inside Cubasis 3. Hello and welcome everybody. We are wishing you the happiest of the happiest from Mobile Music Pro to wherever you guys are in the world. And we just wanted to remind you that, like our previous videos, most if not all the information in today's video can be applied to pretty much any noise gate in any DAW. Now you can actually do a number of different things with the noise gate, but today we're just going to be focused on the most popular use case for noise gates, and that is noise reduction. And so let's go ahead and get started. Now, Cubasis actually gives you a couple of different noise gate plugins. One of them is located right here on the channel strip. So if we bring up our channel strip inside the Insert Effects tab, we can see that our noise gate is right here, just to the right of our cutoff filter. And if you are curious to find out more about the channel strip, make sure to check out our previous video in the series. But today's video is not going to be focused on the channel strip, so we'll go ahead and close this out, and we're going to add our noise gate plugin. So to do that, we'll go over here to our Insert Effects. Let's disable our channel strip first, and then tap to add a new effect. And we'll go ahead and go to Internal Effects and scroll down until we see our noise gate. There we go. We'll tap on Noise Gate, and here is the Noise Gate plugin. So let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see. There we go. Now, in general, you do always want to make sure that your Noise Gate plugin is pretty much as high up on your chain as possible. And that is, of course, because this is a fix for your sound, so you want to have the fixes for your sound above your effects. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a lot of different problems, including things like a very muddy mix. But right now, we'll leave it where it is, which is underneath our channel strip and Studio EQ. Now let's go ahead and explain some of these controls here on this Noise Gate plugin. What you'll find is this plugin, like the other plugins inside of Cubasis, are pretty standard in that you'll find the same features and same labels in a number of other different plugins across the ecosystem, whether that's for the desktop or for the mobile. Now let's go ahead and start explaining the controls here. We're going to go from left to right just like before. And let's just double check that we are on the default preset, and yes we are. Now, Noise Gate plugins share some similar functionality with compressors. And again, if you do want to learn more about compressors, make sure to check out our other video in this series where we cover the Steinberg compressor plugin. So starting on the left-hand side here, we have the threshold, and by default it is set to -20 dB. Now the threshold determines how much incoming signal is required to open or close the gate. So for example, if we were to set this all the way down to -40 dB, then pretty much nothing would get reduced, because the threshold set here at -40 dB is just simply too quiet to ever be detected by the noise gate. But for example, if we were to drag this all the way up to 0 dB, or -1 dB, then pretty much everything is going to get reduced, because the threshold requirement is such that it's only -1 dB, and pretty much all your sounds do reach around -1 dB. So let's set this back to the default by double tapping, and we'll now show you how this threshold level affects the in level and reduction level. So let's hit play. Alright, as you saw there, as we began to drag the fader towards the top, more and more signal was getting reduced. But as we were dragging it to the bottom, less and less, and eventually no signal was being reduced. Once again, the higher you drag this threshold, the more signal will be reduced by the noise gate. And now let's move on to the center of the plugin. As we just mentioned, we have the in level here, and then the reduction level before that. The in level will show how much signal is actually being pushed in to the noise gate. And then the reduction level will actually show you how much of the signal is being reduced. Again, very similar to a compressor. Now below that, we have these three faders labeled range, attack, and release. The range fader is essentially how much of the signal that you want to bleed through once the threshold has been met. So again, it essentially determines how much of the signal can bleed through once the gate is closed. If this is set all the way to 0, then that means that no signal will pass through once that gate is closed. And if we were to move this all the way to the right at 100%, then that means 100% of the signal will still get through even though the gate is closed. Now in general, what you want to do with this setting is keep this range pretty low, something around 20 to 50%, because we do want our instruments to still sound natural. For example, if you were to drag this all the way to the left, then anytime the gate kicks in, your signal will just go absolutely to 0. And that of course is going to sound very unnatural. And you'll see that most of the settings that we begin applying here will live somewhere around the 30 to 50 range. Most of the time, especially for guitars, you do want to leave between 30 and 50% in the range. Again, so some of that signal can still come through and sound a bit more natural. Now below the range slider, we have our attack slider. Now the attack determines how much time it takes to fully open the gate. Generally with drums and percussion, you do want to keep this attack pretty low, somewhere between the 10 and 20 ms range. But on things like pads, strings, and vocals, you do want to end up sliding that slider a little bit more to the right so that the noise gate doesn't quite open up instantaneously right away. Now below that, we have our release slider, which is pretty much the exact opposite of the attack slider, and that instead of determining how fast it takes to open up the gate, the release determines how fast it takes to close the gate. So essentially, the release determines how slowly the volume is lowered after the audio signal falls below a certain threshold. Now finally, we have the output on the far right hand side here, and again very similar to the compressor, where once you've reduced your signal by removing a bunch of unwanted noise, you then may need to have some makeup gain, and that is where this output fader comes in. Now generally, just like the compressor, you don't want to add too much output gain here, because in general, you don't want to reduce too much signal, because you still want to keep as much characteristics of the original instrument as you can, so that it can sound as natural as possible. Now there actually are specific apps made to reduce noise, one of the most popular of those being Bruce V from Clevgrand, and that's something that you may want to apply first before your noise gate. But you still may need a noise gate because of the amount of control that it gives you over the sound, thus allowing you to make the original audio sound that much more natural. And now we'd like to show you the noise gate on a couple of different example tracks. What we have here is a couple of guitars and a drum loop. Now generally the noise gate is used to remove or reduce the noise that occurs in between the artist playing their notes. And that includes pretty much any instrument from guitars to drums. So with the noise gate, we can't actually completely remove all of the static noise out of the sound, but we can remove the in-between bits so that effects can be applied much more smoothly, without adding additional artifacts or mudding up our mix. So what we're going to do first is play the track all the way through, and then we'll play the track all the way through one more time with the plugin engaged, and finally we'll play it a third time, engaging and disengaging the plugin while the track is playing. So what I want you to focus on here is that hiss and hum that's coming from the guitar amp. That happens both when the artist is playing the guitar and in between the notes. So let's play this now without the plugin engaged. Alright, so hopefully you are using your headphones and you can hear all of that static mess inside of that guitar signal. And now we'll apply our noise gate plugin to do the best we can at removing that static noise in between the artist's notes that he's playing. So we'll go ahead and engage the plugin this time and hit play. Alright, so hopefully you heard that guitar noise start to drop out. We'll just hit this one more time so you can hear it. And again, listen for that guitar noise dropping out. Alright, so now what we're going to do is play this track one final time, but this time we're going to engage and disengage the plugin as the track is being played. So let's disengage that plugin and hit play. Alright, so definitely a big difference there. Now, it may not sound like it right away, but again, when this guitar is placed inside of a mix, it can actually be a pretty big difference. As we mentioned in a bunch of other videos, all of these little tiny mixing techniques really do add up once they're all stacked up together. It really can mean the difference between an amateur and a professional sounding production. Now, before we do move on to the next track, we're going to apply the noise gate and the channel strip to this track and see what that sounds like. So we'll select our track, and let's disable our noise gate, and instead enable our channel strip. And we'll go to one of our settings in here. Let's try our first preset here. And again, what we're going to do is start out with the plugin disabled, and then enable it and disable it as the track plays. Alright, now we did over-exaggerate that effect a little bit, so hopefully you can hear the difference. And now let's move on to our next track. So we'll close this and select our next track. So now that we're on track 2, let's go ahead and add a noise gate effect. So inside of our Insert Effects tab on the far left-hand side, let's tap to add effect. We're going to go to our internal effects and scroll down again to our noise gate. And once again, let's drag this up a little bit bigger. Now the first thing we're going to do is solo this track without any plugins so you can hear what it sounds like. So let's disable our noise gate and loop this track, and hit play. So as you hopefully heard there was quite a bit amount of static in there. So let's now listen to this track played back with our noise gate applied. So we'll go back into our My Presets and select our noise gate preset. And let's hit play. Alright, as you saw there with the orange meter, we did have some reduction in there. Now before we explain what's going on, let's go ahead and one more time listen to this track without the plugin and then engage the plugin. Now obviously we can't get rid of all the static there, but we did definitely try to get rid of the static in the in-between parts. And this once again will make your instrument sound much better in the overall mix, and make any effect applied to it sound much better as well. In fact, let's go ahead and give you a real example of what it would look like of me trying to apply a gate effect to this track. So let's go ahead and start with the default. We'll go to Factory Presets and click on Default. Now what I'm going to do first is adjust the threshold. We know it is around negative 18 dB, so let's just change that real quick. Now with the range, again, we want this to sound very natural. We don't want to just cut off the sound right away, so let's go ahead and let around 30 or 40% in there. And because this is a guitar, we do want to not attack right away and give this a little bit more attack time, maybe around 20 to 30 ms, or 20 to 30%. And we do want to gradually let go of the signal, so let's go ahead and increase our release. Somewhere around 50 to 60%, maybe 65% here. And we will make up just a little bit of dB since we are reducing something. Let's just make up something very small, maybe something around 1 to 1.5 dB. Now let's hear what this sounds like and make any adjustments if we have to. Okay, that's pretty good. There is a little bit of a pumping effect there, but I think you can get the idea of how you can begin to apply a noise gate to your sound. Again, first you start out with that threshold, then determine how much sound you actually want to allow through the gate, and then the instrument will pretty much determine your attack and release times. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the third track, which is a drum track. So let's tap on that and mute our other tracks here. And let's once again pull up our noise gate plugin by going under our insert effects on the left hand side and tapping to add effect. We'll go to internal effects and noise gate. And once again, let's make this a little bit bigger. Now what we're going to do first here is play with a few factory presets on this drum loop, and then we'll apply a couple of our own to hopefully give you an idea of what this noise gate is doing to the drums. So let's hit play and begin playing with these presets. Alright, perfect. So as you can see, it is taking some of those frequencies and gating them so that they can become quieter or completely silent. Now there are a number of different use cases for applying a noise gate to drums, but one of the main ones is to reduce the noise of the snare, because the snare can end up being much louder and have a much longer tail than pretty much anything else in the drum set. So let's go ahead and try to reduce the noise of that snare by starting out with one of these presets. So we'll tap on the snare grabber, and let's just hear what that sounds like first. Alright, that's already taming the snare pretty good, but let's go ahead and tame it even more for dramatic effect. You see how we're taking the frequencies of the snare, and beyond a certain threshold, we're just completely cutting that snare off. Now done to an extreme effect, of course it can sound very unnatural just like this, but the default preset does sound pretty good, so let's try that one more time. We'll start out with the plugin disengaged, and then we'll engage it and disengage it as it's playing. Alright there, again, a very subtle difference, but these things do add up in the end. And just for fun, let's go ahead and apply the noise gate from our channel strip plugin. So we'll go ahead and remove this noise gate plugin here. Tap on none. And let's go to our channel strip. And choose one of our presets that we created here. And let's make this a little bigger. And let's see if we can tame this snare once again. Alright, and there we go, we have tamed that snare once more. So again, as you guys can hopefully see, the noise gate really isn't too complicated, it's very similar to a compressor, and is mostly used on live instruments and vocals. So if you are working with mostly samples, then odds are those sounds have already been treated and noise gated, so you don't have to worry. And you can always start out with Steinberg's professional grade presets as a great place to start out with. Alright guys, if you are still rocking with us, then we just can't thank you enough for being here. And we especially can't thank all the people that are watching these premieres live to help us build out our community. Now we hope that this video has cleared up any type of confusion that you had around what a noise gate is and what it's actually used for. As with most plugins like EQs and compressors, there really is a wide range of variety on the different types of noise gate plugins available. And again, as with most plugins, you'll just have to experiment with a couple different ones to find out which one sounds best for you. Now, as we stated, noise gates are generally used to remove unwanted noise on live instruments and vocals, but you can actually use them for a wide variety of different creative effects on things like samples as well. And some of these plugins even have different names for essentially what is the same functionality. But in general, noise gate plugins should all act and look relatively similar. And just a reminder, guys, our most recent contest just ended right here on November 25th, and we're going to release the winners of that contest coming up on our live stream in just a couple hours. And after the live stream has ended, we'll make sure to post the winners across all of our different socials so that everybody can see. And guys, don't forget about our recently launched Discord chat where the conversation can continue long after our live streams and live premieres have ended. And as always, we have a ton more content coming your way, so if you do want to stay up to date and informed with everything that we're doing, make sure to subscribe to our free email list on mobilemusicpro.com. And of course, if you are enjoying this content, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And so, until next time, everybody, keep talking music, and we'll see you later. Our goal here is to get as many people producing music as possible, and the easiest, most accessible way to begin so close. Now today's video is yet another entry. Now today's video is yet another entry in our new ongoing series where we dive into the fundamentals of music productions. No.